Are we recording?
I think we're
We're live.
live.
All right, this is Mies.
This is Lau.
And happy Thanksgiving, happy Devsgiving. And we're going to show you a quick demo of the Honk stack in action alongside Fiberplane Studio. So let's kick things off. We're going to create a new project using our create honk app starter. And we're going to pass it the hatch flag, which will prompt us to supply a API that we want to build. So let's do a throwback to 2010, a location sharing social API for geese migrations.
That's very appropriate for geese, for migrating animals.
And then make sure we can filter by country. What should we call this? Solo geese. We're going to use D1 from Cloudflare as our database. We want dependencies, and why not create a Git repo as well. So now it's going to kick off the flow, install all our stuff that we need, and then obviously generate all the code from our prompt. So yeah, we're using the Honk stack, which consists of Hono, the Drizzle ORM in this case, name a database using D1, and then we're running all of this on Cloudflare workers. Honk.
Yep. This usually takes a little bit of time.
Goose walks into a bar.
I don't know how that... Oh, there. You didn't even have to finish the joke. We wrapped it.
All right, let's go into our Solo Geese project folder.
Let's take a look at the code maybe first.
Yeah. All right.
What do we have here?
Let's use Z. So yeah, we have a basic CRUD API with our routes. So we have users. We can see, let's make this a bit bigger.
I assume users in this case are geese.
Let's hope the users are geese.
This is a very generic API.
Yeah, we've got migrations, and then migrations per country that we can filter on. It looks great. And then we've also instrumented our API with the Fiberplane Hono middleware using OpenTelemetry, and we'll use that later to sort of debug and poke at our API. All right, let's seed the database, right? Let's insert some geese. And this is using D1 locally.
Yeah. It generates the... I think it's using one of our scripts that are bundled. I actually don't remember how it's used, but okay. I think that's the general setup. Just to get you started.
Yeah, let's actually run our API. So it's running on 8787, and then in a separate pane, let's kick off the Fiberplane Studio, running on a different port, and let's open that up. All right, we have our API. So what you can see now is that we auto detect all the routes in the API. And that's due to the middleware that I just mentioned. And now we can, start poking at our API. So we use command enter to fire off a request. We also want to log into the studio, and that will give us our AI sprinkles. So if we go to settings, we're using a request autofill, and we're using the Fiberplane model and the Fiberplane credits to generate payloads. So let's have a look at that. Let's take a post endpoint because that's the most interesting. So maybe before that, let's just have a look at actually, what exists. So we have users. We have, I think they're humans.
Yeah, I don't think the hatch got the correct idea that we're talking our users are geese.
Yeah,
that's all right.
It was maybe too much for the LLM, like social, mobile, local.
Yeah, the part around
the geese got lost.
The geese got lost. The geese migrated away.
Yeah, but we have a list of users. I think we'll have a list of migration. So we got Canada, USA. So that seems to work. So let's go ahead maybe and create a user.
Yeah, and this is one of those things where sort of as you're doing this, like you'd have to look at the code and infer, okay, how does my object look like? If you're not using something like Open API spec, you'd need to sort of this is manual toil of like having to construct that object, and it's just something that we do for you. We are able to see the code of your handler. We're able to ship that as a context to LLM, and so when you hit Command G or hit that magic wand button, the response that you'll get will be hopefully a valid
John Doe.
Payload. So let's hit that and see if So John Doe has been created with we get our ID and the created hat back. And now if you go into the delete mode and hit Command G again, you notice the ID of John Doe was 4. We shipped the context of previous responses so that like if you're sequencing different calls, a feature that we have more on coming later, we are able to sort of track that context. So, we know that the previous response returned 4. The next thing you're operating on the user endpoint again, you'll probably want to use that 4. And so now if you hit enter, we've deleted John Doe from the database.
Yeah, so we're maintaining a scratch pad of sort of your most recent interactions and things that are happening.
Yeah.
All right. So let's maybe one more post request. So let's create a migration. Another Canada.
Yeah.
Toronto in this case. So let's insert that in the database, and as I mentioned, we're using OTel sort of to track the requests and instrument them. So now if we go into our timeline view, you can see how long that took and sort of the subsequent requests that were made. So in this case, we made a D1 query to insert our new migration, and we can actually see the SQL statement that was used to do that, to execute that. So that's nice. Maybe that's sort of the happy path. Maybe if we can turn our QA engineer into hostile mode. Let's see what happens there when we get an individual country. See what happens.
Let's see what kind of.
All right. It inserts Atlantis, which is a string.
Pretty sure we'll just get a happy path in this case. But I wonder if you go into a post route and then try to generate that, usually these are a little more sensitive to what kind of information is applied. And if we take a look at body, I think let's try firing off this. There we go.
So there we go. We got an internal server error. So let's have a look at our logs via the shortcut GL. And here indeed we can see that our call is failing.
Yeah, what's basically happening is that our it's a very classic. Have you checked that the data you're getting is the exact type? Sort of a type validation. Sort of maybe a trivial case, but just to illustrate what's going on, we're able to capture all of the errors that are happening inside of the lifecycle of that request and just put them in front of you in this panel. You will see the same if you switch into the timeline view for this. You'll see that same error laid out in a pretty convenient fashion of like, you try to insert something that was a null. We saw in the request payload there was a null value that we try to pass in, and the D1 did not like that and crashed the whole process.
Yeah.
So you can do the full debugging flow in the same window essentially.
Yeah, and the same would, we're tracking every error or console error statement as well.
Yeah.
So if I would insert something here and then fire that off.
Yeah, we'll just capture
that.
all console events and all outgoing fetch requests, as well as some specific, like D1 is an internal Cloudflare binding, so there's not actually no external network requests, but with the client library we're able to intercept those and sort of show all that information inside of the tool.
Yeah, so I think that's sort of the honk stack and a little bit of Fiberplane in action. Let us know what you think.
Yeah.
Happy Thanksgiving, and see you soon.